What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we'll be reading John chapter 2. I'm reading from the NLT, the New Living Translation. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. John chapter 2. The wedding at Cana. The next day, Jesus' mother was a guest at a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus and his disciples were also involved in the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festival, so Jesus' mother spoke to him about the problem. "They have no more wine," she told him. "How does that concern you or me?" Jesus asked. "My time has not yet come." But his mother told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." 6 stone water pots were standing there. They were used for Jewish ceremonial purposes and held 20 to 30 gallons each. Jesus told the servants, "Fill the jars with water." When the jars have been filled to the brim, he said, "Dip some out and take it to the master of the ceremonies." So they followed his instructions. When the master of the ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it came from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over. "Usually a host serves the best wine first," he said. "Then, when everyone is full and doesn't care, he brings out the less expensive wine. But you have kept the best until now." This miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was Jesus' first display of his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After the wedding, he went to Capernaum for a few days with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples. That little portion there, it's so interesting for me to see, still how much pull Jesus' mother, Mary, had kind of as a mother figure, right? She is very well aware of who Jesus is, of what his purpose is, and things of that nature. But yet she's gonna, pretty much the way it sounds to me, right? She's gonna be like, "Listen, son, I know who you are, but you're gonna do what I tell you. Go do this." And then she just told the servants, "Hey, do exactly what he tells you to do." So to me, it's kind of interesting to see, that mother-son relationship, plays more to the human side of Jesus, and I think that's pretty awesome. Anyways, let's continue. Jesus clears the temple. It was time for the annual Passover celebration, and Jesus went to Jerusalem. In the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle, sheep, and doves for sacrifices, and he saw money changers behind their counters. Jesus made a whip from the ropes and chased them out of the temple. He drove out the sheep and oxen, scattered the money changers' coins on the floor, and turned over their tables. Then, going over to the people who sold doves, he told them, "Get these things out of here. Don't turn my Father's house into a marketplace." Then his disciples remembered the prophecy from the scriptures. "Passion for God's house burns within me." "What right do you have to do these things?" the Jewish leaders demanded. "If you have this authority from God, show us a miraculous sign to prove it." "All right," Jesus replied. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will rise it up." "What?" they exclaimed. "It took 46 years to build this temple, and you can do it in 3 days?" But by this temple, Jesus meant his body. After he was raised from the dead, the disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed both Jesus and the scriptures. Because of the miraculous sign he did in Jerusalem at the Passover celebration, many people were convinced that he was indeed the Messiah, but Jesus didn't trust them because he knew the people were really like. No one needed to tell him about human nature. So let's go back kind of a little bit into the temple, right? So the way the temple is, and I've made videos with pictures in book of Matthew, and I believe also in the book of Mark. If you want to go back to those videos, I had pictures and actually explained of what the temple was, how it was built, and things of that nature. But I'll kind of just summarize it right now in words. So the temple was, you had the Holy of Holy Places where the presence of God was. That was separated by a veil. Outside of that was the holy place. That's where the priests did all their ceremonial work and things of that nature. Outside of that was the area where the Jewish men could come in and they could watch the priests performing their duties and things of that nature. Outside of that was the women's court. The women's court is where the Jewish women could go to and be closer to the Holy of Holies, to the presence of God. Outside of that was the Gentile court. The Gentile court is anybody that's not Jewish, right? So that's where all the other people of all different ethnicities and pretty much anybody that's not Jewish, that's as far as they were allowed to go, but they could still go to the temple in their own designated area and worship God. However, that is the area that all these money exchangers and all these people that were selling the cattle, the sheep, and the doves for sacrifices, that's where they were at. The reason why they did it is, for one, a lot of the people, especially the Gentiles or anybody coming from long distances, usually traveled long distances in order to come to the temple, and it's pretty hard to, bring livestock with you or things of that nature. So they would just sell the things to sacrifice right there. Also, for the money exchangers, from the research that I have done, the temple had their own currency. So if you wanted to donate to the temple, you would have to go and exchange your money for the temple currency and then donate it that way. So instead of doing it outside the temple, they decide to do it inside the Gentile court. That's why Jesus was so upset about it, is because that the temple was supposed to be where everybody could come and pray to God and worship God and things of that nature. However, they took that portion where the Gentiles were and made it pretty much into a marketplace. Obviously, the prices were way jacked up for all the sacrificial animals, money exchangers, and things of that nature. So that is why he got so upset. And I know this one doesn't quite say it right. The other books were saying how you have turned it into the den of thieves. And here Jesus tells them, get these things out of here. Don't turn my Father's house into a marketplace. And then, the disciples remembered this prophecy from the scriptures. Passion for God's house burns within me. So clearly Jesus was very upset. Anyways, that is it for chapter 2. I will be seeing you guys hopefully in chapter 3 next. As always, I love you. God bless you and your families, and take care.